Attorney General and current candidate for South Carolina Governor Alan Wilson commented on the Scott Spivey and Weldon Boyd shooting case during an appearance on a podcast titled The Political Pulse, December 5th. The podcast, hosted by Joel Wilson, describes itself as conservative voices, bold opinions, and a fresh take on today's hot topics. The show has hosted multiple Horry County area politicians and South Carolina governor candidates over the past couple months. On Friday's episode of the show, Joel presented Alan with some of the most asked questions from listeners. Then he said, "The big one that I want to know is the Spivey Stand Your Ground case." Alan started his remarks with a couple of prefaces and said he did not want to politicize the case or litigate it on the podcast. He explained that his office in particular was responsible for the initial decision in the case on whether or not the Stand Your Ground immunity protections applied to Weldon Boyd. Alan explained that he was not the only one behind the ruling. He said 3 attorneys reviewed this thing in prosecution. So it's not Alan Wilson by himself making decisions. That's not how it works. He said there were a collective 150 years of legal expertise between the 3 other attorneys looking at the case. Ultimately, his office ruled that the Stand Your Ground immunity protections did apply. However, he said he acknowledges the allegations made against the Horry County Police Department's handling of the investigation. He said, quote, "There are a lot of critics out there regarding the Horry County Police Department. A lot of allegations." He added, quote, "Our decisions were based on evidence collected from that investigation." Alan then explained there's a second investigation surrounding the case, which is focused on the practices and protocols demonstrated by the Horry County Police Department during its initial investigation. Alan explained that he referred the case to another solicitor in the state out of caution to avoid any bias from his team, given that they relied on that evidence from the investigation in question to make the Stand Your Ground decision. He said, quote, "I don't want people to think we were engaging in confirmation bias, that we wouldn't do anything to jeopardize our initial decision, because we already made a decision on Stand Your Ground." The second case was sent to the 7th Judicial Circuit Solicitor Barry J. Barnett. In a letter to Barnett, Alan explained, "If there is new information within the police misconduct investigation that would change the outcome of the Stand Your Ground determination made by my office, the solicitor has the authority to reevaluate that as well." In the podcast Friday, he again said, "Barnett is free to make a different call than us if we have blind spots that we didn't know we had at the time. My intention as the Attorney General is to get to the truth by applying the facts." Alan recounted his office's decision to grant Stand Your Ground immunity to Weldon Boyd. While the application of the Stand Your Ground immunity was a bit controversial in the case and can be a bit confusing, so if you're looking for more information on the law, head to WPDE.com to see our article detailing exactly what the Stand Your Ground law in South Carolina means. In the episode, Alan said, "One of the things I've heard the most is Mr. Boyd, who was driving a white truck, chased down Mr. Spivey over 9 miles and shot him." He said, "There is zero evidence that supports that. Were they driving along the same highway? Yes. You know, people are out there saying he chased him down and shot him in the back. These things are not true." He continued saying, "These 2 gentlemen did not know each other. They were not at a bar. They were not fighting over a girl. Yes, Mr. Boyd did not chase down Mr. Spivey. In fact, Mr. Spivey, according to multiple eyewitnesses and multiple 911 calls by multiple witnesses, observed that Mr. Spivey was the initial aggressor who attempted to run off Mr. Boyd. Boyd was obviously run off the road. Guns were pointed at him. He called 911 from the evidence that we got. The evidence supports the fact that he was trying to follow Mr. Spivey, and I understand he said things days, weeks later that were probably inappropriate. The Stand Your Ground analysis is for what is the reasonable belief at the time that something is happening." He reiterated that the decision to grant immunity was contingent on the evidence presented in the case, and should the events of the case have differed, they would have granted a different judgment. He said, quote, "I'm not defending all of the judgment calls Mr. Boyd and his passenger made. What I can tell you is that at that roadside, had Mr. Spivey not been shot, or had he been shot and survived, he would have been the one that was charged with a felony for driving under the influence and also brandishing a firearm. The fact is that unfortunately he was killed, and we don't know what would have happened had he not been killed." Alan Wilson ended his remarks on the case by saying new developments could come out of the second investigation into the Horry County Police Department by Barnett. He said, "Other people will get a chance to reevaluate this. Again, at the end of the day, our job is to make tough calls,